Howdy folks, you're watching Deuce. Today I'm going to take this Milwaukee drill and drill out the barrel of this old Mosin Nagant to see if I can get a little bit better accuracy out of it. So let's start real quick. I think I'm lined up pretty well. Of course I'm not going to do that. That would be stupid. Today we're talking about counterboring. The Soviets really loved to counterbore all their old surplus rifles, and if you ever spent any time collecting Mosin Nagants, I can almost guarantee you have run across a counterbored example. So let's talk about what is counterboring and why they did it. On the bench today we have two beautiful examples of Mosin Nagants. We have this M44 model 44 and a 9130. Now, while they are different models, they're the same action, the same barrel type, just different lengths. But most importantly, they are the same caliber, 7.62 by 54R, which is this guy right here. I keep a couple of them on standby to use as my pointer, and I'll be using this both as a pointer today and as a muzzle gauge because counterboring is all about the muzzle. So we're going to be focusing on this part of the action right now. I've now got you pulled up close and personal with these muzzles here. The 9130, this barrel right here, has not been counterbored. It is as it came from the original factory. One of the ways you can check on that is by using a round and putting it down into the muzzle to see how far the bullet goes into the muzzle. That's also an old trick to see how badly the barrel is worn out. One of the common little tricks you do when you're searching for surplus rifles. And you can see there's quite a bit of bullet still sticking out of there. The amount of, let me grab my other pointer here. The amount of bullet from this cartridge sticking out of there, that's the amount that would be engaging a rifling inside the barrel, which means that this rifle is not worn out. At least the barrel is not that worn out. Is it in great shape? No, but it is okay. This barrel is to the M44, and you can tell by just looking at it that it is a counterbored barrel. And you can also check with that rifle round going all the way down, not only swallowing the bullet, but the neck of the cartridge as well, all the way down to the shoulder. That is a lot of cartridge to be sunk down in the barrel when it's supposed to look like that. So that is a big difference. And the reason is because they have counterbored this. They have taken an end mill, such as this right here with a squared off front there, and puts on a jig to where it's bore centric. It's lined up with the bore itself, so it does not affect the accuracy. And they drill down into that barrel to get a clean muzzle somewhere down here versus on the very edge, because the very edge has been damaged in some way. And to prove my point how a lot of people do not understand counterboring, here is an exact quote from the gun show that I bought this rifle from. That thing won't shoot, got no rifling in it. If you had trouble understanding that phrase, that's because it's almost in a different language, something I like to refer to as Appalachian Mountain Talk. Luckily, I am fluent in Appalachian Mountain Talk because that's where I'm from. What the old gentleman said was, this thing won't shoot because it has no rifling in it, because he was not familiar with the idea of counterboring. And that's the reason I brought out this other rifle as an example, because I bought both these rifles from the same vendor on the same day, and I got basically the M44 thrown in for an extra 30 bucks because, again, it had no rifling in it. That is an example of how the information I'm going to show you today can help you and benefit you in the future if you're looking at buying your own surplus firearm. In order to show you the difference between the counterbored barrel versus the non-counterbored barrel, I've got this wand here. It's a Tesla-long Borescope. It's the flexible model. They have some rigid ones too, but I do all kinds of weird stuff with this thing. So I've got this recorded. I'm going to put this, overlay this into the video, and we will see. Basically, here we go, going into the non-counterbored rifle barrel. Right there, you can see there is the muzzle right there. And you see that muzzle has, that's a notch. See that little notch right there? I'll put an arrow right there. That is going to impact accuracy to a way bigger degree than you think it will. And you can see right there, there is a wisp of rifling. This barrel has seen better days. Pretty much any kind of Mosin Nagant that actually saw some action, which a lot of them did, have seen better days. Boy, that is pretty rough. It actually shoots surprisingly well for the condition and age of this barrel. Now let's compare that with the counterbored muzzle. When you first go into the muzzle, you can see that there is no rifling. You move around there, you see some milling marks where they've gone in and milled out part of the barrel there and made it much, much bigger. But you keep on going down there, and eventually you do hit this ledge. See right there, you can see that ledge right there, and let's see if I can go over that. There is the ledge right there. And suddenly we have rifling. The rifling starts, you see it right there. And ideally, now I've never looked at this real close, that's not great either. So in order to improve the accuracy of this M44, what they did was take an end mill and drill out the barrel all the way down to here. And then there, they formed a new crown which had clean rifling. So that's what you need. You need clean rifling all the way to the very muzzle. And then after that, the bullet will exit cleanly and have a much better chance for better accuracy. So why does a damaged crown? A crown is basically a part of the muzzle that the bullet sees as it exits the rifling. Why does a damaged crown impact the accuracy? Well, let me show you on the blackboard here. Let me move my Nagant pistols here. Good old pistolas. These things were dirt cheap 15 years ago, and now you can't find them for anything under 400 bucks. It's insane. Here we have a Mosin Nagant barrel, and here is the crown of that barrel, Bugs Bunny style. Now, when the bullet exits, it's a little out of spec, but when the bullet exits the barrel, there's a whole bunch of hot gas coming down behind that bullet. The second the butt end of that bullet exits the crown, then all this is open. And if there's a nick, if there's a flaw in that crown, all this gas is going to shoot out through that flaw first, and then the rest of it later on. It should come out evenly, but if there's a notch there, that's going to shoot out a bunch of excess gas on top of the bullet, and it's going to force this bullet to go down a little bit. And every time you shoot, because gas is extremely hot, extremely volatile while it's going out of that barrel, it's going to cut that little notch deeper and deeper and deeper. So every shot, this bullet is going to start going down further and further and further, becoming more and more inaccurate. So if you clean up that muzzle, so you can go through and either cut off the very end of the barrel or drill down inside and cut a crown down here somewhere that is perfectly even 90 degrees to the bore of the rifling, then that bullet is going to come out and not have any kind of issues, because the gas exiting the barrel behind that bullet is going to come out on either side perfectly, and the bullet goes straight once again, just as if it left the factory the first time around. We've now covered what counterboring is, why they do it, how they do it, and what it looks like firsthand. But what damages the crown on these muzzles in the first place? There's a couple of things that can damage it. For the most part, as far as these Mosin Nagants are concerned, it was mostly traumatic impacts. These things are heavy, and during the war and after the war, these are being carried around by 100-pound dudes, 100-pound 18-year-olds from Russia. For the most part, that's what happened to these muzzles, is they just got hit on things. There's also another way that you can damage your rifling, which is very common in the civilian world, and that is to be very careless with the cleaning rod. Cleaning rods have damaged more rifle barrels than probably everything else combined. I've now moved you guys around to where I can show you how the Soviets intended their soldiers to clean their rifles and not damage their muzzles. And the more I look at that drawing of the rifle in the background, makes it look more like a penis. So the military wanted the Russian soldiers to use a muzzle protector just like this right here. It slips around over the barrel there, and it has a central hole that allows the cleaning rod to go through the center and not touch the crown. So it's right there in the center. It does touch the rifling eventually, but it does not touch the crown, which is what you should be doing. Typically, you can avoid all this by cleaning from the rear of the action going forward, but you can't always do that. Case in point with the Mosin Nagant, the cleaning rod, which is intended to be tucked up underneath here and not sticking too far out in front of the barrel, because that would just be a snag hazard. This thing is too short to clean the entire barrel from the rear of the rifle. You just can't do it. It's not long enough. So you got to clean from the front. This, they package it with a muzzle protector. While you're shopping for surplus firearms, you're going to find that the vast majority of counterbored firearms are going to be Mosin Nagants. Why that is, I have no idea. My theory is part of the arsenal refresh process was simply just to counterbore batches of firearms as they came in. Sometimes entire batches got counterbored, sometimes they didn't. Most of my collection is not counterbored, but I have several examples that are. The second most common counterbored firearm you're going to come across when shopping for surplus firearms is the Mauser. The Mauser was made by many different countries, and they were also arsenal refinished, which means that many arsenals went ahead and counterbored those as well. But it's not nearly the numbers as you find in the Mosin Nagants. Well guys, that's it for me today. Hope you enjoyed it. If you did, give me a like, go subscribe. A lot more is on the way. Give me comments, questions, show ideas. Leave that down in the comments down below. I try to answer as many of those as possible. And as always, you guys have a great day. See ya.